Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, I have to check every word just to make sure it works. Hello, my name is Fiona. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the host of What Am I Rolling, which is a twice monthly tabletop RPG one-shot podcast. But I'm also the host of whatever this is. It's too long, didn't read tabletop RPG streams. Sorry, the music's like ba 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 ba. I'm like, let's just write down a little bit for my delicate ears. Hope you're doing well. Yes, we're Friday afternoons now. That's nice. No, I have the day off today. I thought I would do an early stream before doing more fun stuff this evening. I hope you're all very well, whether you're watching this live or watching the VOD later on. Sorry I'm a bit late. Yeah, a bit late. I'm supposed to start on the hour, and I think maybe a couple of VODs ago, I thought I've done something to my microphone because I moved it, and I moved the pin slightly, the USB micro thing. It bent slightly. And it's fine, but there's a definite hum when I record. So what I've discovered though, if I put the microphone in a certain place and just don't touch it, it doesn't record the hum. Obviously there's a bit of hum because of the laptop fan, there's nothing I can do about that. But I noticed it, it was really bad when I was trying to record some voiceover stuff earlier, so I was like, oh you idiot, and it's because I've done something to the inside of it, which I can't fix. But it's okay, it's as long as I just don't touch it, it's absolutely fine. But I hope you're doing well today. What else is there to say? It's freezing still in the UK. I woke up to half 4. I woke up to -4 degrees this morning, which I know doesn't sound a lot, but I can't take it. I've been wearing this very lovely jacket for pretty much 24/7 right now. But I'm looking forward to a nice weekend. I'm going out this evening to go see a musical, my first musical of the year. I am in the capital city in the UK, and I'm going to go see. It's either called The Big Little Things or The Little Big Things. I can't remember which way around it is. But it's got some good social media around it, got some good reviews, so I thought I might as well go check it out. Indeed. Thank you, Crafty Gobble. Really helpful on that. Maybe not self-conscious at all. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Oh, tangling myself up in my cables. Right. Today, we are doing an interesting RPG. Again, all these RPGs are stuff. The way I pick for these streams, what RPG are we going to read today? So the idea behind the stream, I should have started with that, shouldn't I? The idea behind the stream is that it's a bit of an accountability stream. I've got all these RPGs that I haven't read, but I thought those look fun, and then I've bought them and then put them on a shelf, or put them in my wonderful big Google Drive, and I'm like, I really want to read about them, because if I'll never play them or run them for my podcast, at least I want to know what kind of stories in it. And sometimes we find stuff like, oh yes, I definitely want to run it, or maybe not, etc. But ultimately this stream's a way of being accountable, being able to read aloud as well, which is always useful if you're doing voiceover stuff. Learning game mechanics, which is always useful in general, if you're a game designer, but also, if you want to find out more about games and telling stories, that's good for both game masters and players. And also from an accessibility point of view and a teaching point of view as well, because if the game is not able to communicate its main themes across, or the main sort of mechanics across in a way that is accessible, not just through visuals and alt text and all that malarkey, but just in general with simple language, that we critique that as well, not criticize that as well. So today I moved here because hey, and then hey from Hazard Strikes on Twitch, and then suddenly I moved here because Gobbo was here. Oh, bless you guys. Thanks for joining Hazard Strikes. I hope you're doing well. I hope work's going well. I was saying I've got the day off today because I had to go do life admin stuff this morning, which was intense, but it's all good. But today we are looking at something called Dialect, a game about language and how it dies. Which again I rolled randomly on my big long list of tabletop RPGs things to look at, and I'm going to be completely honest, I'm incredibly intimidated by this game. Because I wondered if it's going to be all about pronunciations, and as we know, that is my big Achilles heel, that's my big weakness, so to speak. This is by Thorny Games. There was a Kickstarter roughly about 4 years ago now. It's first of all, it looks beautiful. Second of all, it's completely out of print anywhere in the UK. You can get it in the US. Thorny Games is an LA-based company, and certainly the two people that run it, Catherine and Hakan, are... Oh, my phone's ringing. Oh no, I'll answer that later. Catherine and Hakan, they are very involved with the RPG community. I believe Harkan runs games on demand at Gen Con, and I'm sure Catherine is a great game designer in her own right as well. We'll go on to their website in a little bit. Sketching plans. Oh, fantastic. Well, I hope I'm not boring you or distracting you from that sort of thing. So yeah, let's go straight for it. So we'll get off big Fiona screen into teeny tiny Fiona screen. So this is the Thorny Game website, and this is Dialect. You might recognise if you've heard the name Dialect. This is what it sort of looks like, that front cover, which is very evocative. I very much like that sort of layout. And it does come, the physical edition, comes with a deck of cards, which I assume is like you could replace with your own deck of cards for playing cards. Again, we'll go into this in a second. Again, it looks very lovely, and there are different versions of it depending on what kind you want, like in terms of like alt covers, etc. Because obviously it was funded by a Kickstarter. You could also see, if I move screen a little bit out of the way, it's got loads of awards. It's got Game of the Year, Best Game Tabletop, Best Game Silver Any. Gen Con 2019. Oh, so it's a little bit earlier than 2020. My apologies. Official selection by South by Southwest. Festival finalist official selection. So it's done well. It's got a lot of awards, which is very good. I'll have a look at what it shows. Ooh, look at that. You see, so that's one of the special edition versions there. I wonder how they got that shot. Do you think they just held it from a great height? 2 books and were like, now, threw it down, or the cards probably was photoshopped on afterwards, but I just like the idea, they're like, throw the book down now. Interesting. Speaking of websites, I know Rowan Rook and Descartes have got a very nice, beautiful, fancy little website, and so massive clang here, name drop. I spoke to Grant Howitt, who's obviously one of the game designers at Rowan Rook and Descartes, about it, and he was saying that how when they got a photographer, it's always nice to have a photographer that goes, okay, so you want to have stuff with buckets of blood? Let's do that. And like, apparently their photographer was just really like involved saying, what about if we bring a gun? And so they're like, yeah, that sounds great. So if you go check out their website, rowanrookandacard.com, you can see that they've gone quite far with all the different how to display an RPG book in very different ways, which I thought was quite fun. So let's get on to the it's a nice website and has a dice roller, which is fun. Agreed. All right, Dialect. Let's move over the screen. So Dialect, maybe I'll move in a little bit. So Dialect is a game about an isolated community, their language, and what it means for that language to be lost. In this game, you'll tell the story of the isolation by building their language. New words will come from fundamental aspects of the community, who they are, what they believe in, and how they respond to a changing world. Players take away both the story they've told and the dialect they build together. If you're buying it from Thorny Games website, it includes the book, a deck of language. Oh, so that's what it was saying. I couldn't read that before. Let's see. A language deck. Very fancy font. So the deck of language, generating cards, 4 core play sets, 11 contributed play steps by renowned game designers, linguists, and activists, and a digital copy delivered immediately. This is a story game for 3 to 5 players, and it's played in 3 to 4 hours. So it is a one-shot game, essentially. And yeah, here, if you want to, you can get the different editions as well. Great. I will say there is preview of it. There's a couple of actual plays online by one of the designers, Harkan. What's the one thing I was going to say? There is. I downloaded a like a player reference guide. Now the problem is I can't remember where I got it from. Maybe it was a preview of the game. I can't remember. But the other games I will recommend or have a look at with Thorny Games is that all their games are about language and the impact of language on tabletop RPGs and our stories, which is a cool thing to think about. So Dialect is I would say, their most famous one. They did kickstart something called Zeo Language, a game about alien language and human memory. I will say this was funded. That was it. This was funded a couple of years ago, and it still hasn't been delivered yet. I think they must have had some issues with actual physical copies and paper, but it sounded like they were going to do stuff there. Like, yeah, you can see here, funded in 2020. And they got a lot of money for it, over $100,000. But it sounds cool, that idea of coming into first contact with alien life, messy human relationships, and what happens when they mix after. So yeah, that could also be interesting if you're interested about dialect and you want to see what else they do. Xeno language is one to look out for. The other game though, which looked quite interesting, was this game called Sign. Sign, a game about being understood. So this is based on the history of the Nicaraguan sign language. Nicaragua in the 1970s had no official form of sign language, but in 1977, let me make sure you can see it, something happened. 50 deaf children from across the country were brought together to a school in Managua. Without a shared language to express themselves, the children did something remarkable. They created one. In Sign, we follow a story that inspired that journey. And I just think that's pretty cool. It's again, a nice way to sort of have the history. But also, you can see here that all the proceeds from the physical version go to support sign language education in Nicaragua. Words are not my strong point. But that's fucking awesome, actually. And you can get it in different versions. And yet, you can get a free edition, which is like a shortened version, like a preview there, which is really good. And yeah, it's cool that you can have games obviously about language and also about supporting people, but like I very much appreciate that as a way to like share stories with other people who might not have the means otherwise to. And it's such an interesting concept. And it's great that they're raising money for a charity that goes directly to them. So really, really think that's great. Right, with all that out of the way, I think I put a link to the where you can get Dialect. You can, I'm sure there are, like I believe I got it from Thorny Games myself, got the PDF version from there, but you can probably get it on itch as well. Don't think it's on Drive-Thru-RPG. I had a quick look beforehand, but couldn't see it anywhere, unfortunately. But I highly recommend just checking out their stuff anyway. I'm sure you will find a version for you. Right, all that done. Back to, no, not that screen. Fiona, what are you doing? You're going rogue. No. Okay, yes, there we go. Fiona's like, oh, I didn't reset it. This is what happens when you don't have a quick look through to check beforehand. So spoilers, I've started trying to prepare for these streams a little bit. Only just, I need to put this over here though. There we go. There we go. Everyone can see. Don't panic. Don't panic. It's all good. So, the book itself, the PDF, is 185 pages, which is a decent length, but you've got to remember as well as having like the rules and setup and all that sort of thing and a little bit of history, there are those play sets that there's sort of 4 core play sets and there's some contributed ones as well, which we probably won't go into today. What does it remind me of? Something with like play sets makes me think of Fiasco and that sort of thing. So you could put on like a setting or an environment that sort of themes the one shot you're doing. So I think I always am a big fan of that and it's also nice that they had contributed play sets from not only RPG people but from linguists and activists themselves. So yeah, we're getting a real big mix and of people with lived experience and are experts in these fields. So that's really cool as well. Need a pronunciation for Nicaragua. Yeah, I'm grafting off. I need one for everything. I just need a big list. I tried like. As you'll see, there is one of the Hakan, the game designer. His surname is unique, and I have looked. I think the last half an hour I looked through like 30 different like interviews, etc. And he doesn't pronounce his own name, which is fair enough. He just gets straight to the point. Other people have pronounced it 3 or 4 different ways, so I'm just going to give it my best shot. But Hakan and Catherine are the designers here, and they are Thorny. I was going to say Thorny Hill Games. Thorny Games is their thing. I mean, a game about language just screams a need for a pronunciation guide. I mean, I know, but we'll find out. It's all about made-up language, and so I don't think it matters too much. All right, so as we started, here is that beautiful, beautiful, very sort of like stark but sort of integrated, not the word, detailed design. But I want to you can zoom in a little bit closer. Look at that, the fire, the way the flames are in that. Sorry, move to pan. Just really love that sort of imagery in that. So detailed, and the texture of the wood is really, really cool. And then there's sort of almost like painted sort of font game language style is just really like outlining. It's outlining what the core story of this game is, right? So all good stuff. So yeah, very much that. Black page as always. Dialect, a game about language and how it dies. And there you go, the 2 designers, Catherine and Hakan. best of luck pronouncing that name. I've decided not to do it because otherwise I'll just destroy it. Dedicated to indie games on demand for giving us a home to play games. So yeah, I just think that's really cool because I don't know if anyone here in the chat has actually played any indie games on demand at conventions to play it. It's just a nice place to be like, hey, let's do a game together, and just getting a few people and just running that game then and there rather than having it prepped beforehand, and just the nice easy way to make friends and just get to know people and get to know different games that you might not have planned to play that day. So very much appreciate it. What a great illustration as well. Beautiful. Thorny Games, there we go. So 2017, God, it's much older than I thought it was, and then published in 2018. There you go. Fonts, Hammy likes fonts. He does like fonts, Crafty Gobbo, but he's currently sketching buildings, so we'll never know what he thinks. The other thing to notice, obviously, we've got the credits here with Catherine and Hakan, and then you've got the editing, all that good stuff. But I wanted just to go down to the additional writing, design, and art. First of all, there's some, you might see some familiar names there. Meg A. Baker, of the Bakers who created Powered by the Apocalypse. We've got Ajit George, who is the lead on our favourite, well, one of our favourite D&D settings, or D&D sort of anthology books, Radiant Citadel, who I got to chat to briefly. Jay Lee wrote Twain, which we've done on What Am I Rolling? That idea that it's a solo RPG game where you and your twin used to do magic, but you don't anymore, and your twin went to do magic and you did not, and very harrowing, but very great. Jason Morningstar, of course, Fiasco, Bully Pulpit Games in general. Alex Roberts, I believe that's the Alex Roberts who has done Starcrossed. Which again, so and obviously many more whose games I bet I do know, but I've yet to either look at them or can't come to mind just now. So already I'm like, oh, you get a lot of really high quality contributors to this particular game, which is awesome. So straight ahead into the contents. We've got obviously a beginning, what it is, which is always good. The rules of play, which takes up quite a bit of the book, up to page 2. Then we've got a flow of play. I assume that's going to be like a playthrough example. The backdrops, I believe these are those core play sets here. So we've got, it's core backdrops. We've got the 4 there. So we might look at them very briefly. And then I believe we've got some languages. We've got some maybe essays, perhaps. This idea that you could take from what you've built in Dialect into maybe another game, which would be quite interesting to see. Creating a world that sustains its language, so again, possibly another essay. And then we've got some appendices here, so like adorning the play space. There must be like props and stuff like that, would be quite interesting. Safety mechanics, of course, always very important. Writing your own backdrops, so writing your own playset, Ooh. Which again, could be really interesting if you're going to try and start making your own world using this sort of thing. So yeah, this must be it's like world building thing. I realise I've completely misread that title. It's not world building, it's word building in Dialect. Oh dear. Character gift, a glossary, and then gratitude. Oh, gratitude at the end. Alright, so chapter 1, beginning. I'm going to make sure we have a drink of tea before we begin. We die. That may be the meaning of life, but we do language. That may be the measure of our lives. Morrison. That's quite good that we have on our little section of pages. Got a little sub table of contents. I think that I always am a big fan of that. Alright, don't worry guys, I'm enhancing. Alrighty. So, this is a game about language. Do you recall your first words? They were something simple, or silly, no doubt. You were probably toothy and drooling, and most definitely loud. Even if you don't remember, you surely said them. The act of saying something, anything, may seem so humble and small, and yet it's quite extraordinary. By speaking and developing language, you are exercising something big, something fundamental to being human. This seed is in each of us, a profound spark that separates us as a species and drives a line between humans, animals, and robots. In brackets, for now at least. Yeah, I think AI might have something to say. From your first words, you were anchoring your connection to the world and your place in it. Language is the logic of your internal clockwork. It's how your brain organizes information and how you convey yourself to others. It is your innately endowed technology, and because it's so utterly human, the market the markers for your culture and identity are embedded within it. This is a game about language. Language tells a story. Woven into the way we speak, we reveal that we care about we reveal what we care about, where we come from, and who we are. It changes as we change. More than ever, we now stand at a critical juncture. Far beyond the natural pace of change, the world is losing languages at an alarming rate. They are being lost to the mundane, everyday pressures of money, violence, social prestige, climate change, and fraying community. As global communication connects us, it also risks compromising our cultural core. Right now, almost 10% of languages on Earth have fewer than 10 speakers. Holy shit, 10%? Damn. In embracing what brings us together, we threaten to erase what makes us special. What happens when a language is lost? The world takes another step towards sameness, and we lose a shade of humanity. It may seem inevitable as we hurtle headlong into the singularity, but it is far from it. In order to fight this future, we must fight to understand it. This is a game about language and how it dies. What is dialect? So, Dialect is a story game about an isolated community, their language, and what it means for that language to be lost. It is for 3 to 5 players and runs in 3 to 4 hours. Let's tease that apart. Interesting, they've gone... No, I'm being silly now, but I always find when obviously it's written out as 3 to 5 languages and not numbers, because they had numbers on the store page, 3 to 5 people, 3 to 4 hours, etc. I do find it interesting when they've done that deliberately. It's not a copy and paste, they've thought about it. Maybe it's a part of the letters thing. Story games. Story games are a structured way for people to tell stories together. The rules of the games help players invent fiction and share experiences that would be hard to craft from a blank page. In Dialect, all players have equal authority at the table and a shared stake in the narrative. By giving more of yourself, you get more from the game. Okay, so it's a completely GM-less game then. The isolation. In Dialect, you'll define and explore an isolated community through its beginning, rise, and end. You may be pilgrims to Mars, a cyberpunk gang fighting a megacorp, or students in an English boarding school. Ooh. Some isolations may be voluntary, and others not. Some will choose to barricade themselves against an unforgiving world, whilst others lie stranded and adrift from home. On their own, one thing is certain. These people will be left to simmer in what makes them special. They will change because of it. You will decide what they become. I've got to be honest, I didn't think of any of those 3 examples when I read the sort of the bio of this book. The fact we can go from sort of sci-fi, cyberpunk, to almost like a mundane English, mundane school drama. That's so cool. So it's genreless as well, settingless as well, this game. Nice. Language building. You'll tell the story of the isolation by building their language. Over the course of the game, you'll create new words of the fundamental traits of the community, the pivotal events that have defined their lives, and how they respond to a changing world. You will use the language you create to explore your character and advance the story of the isolation. Each time a new word is made, the language grows and the community is tightened. Dialect's core spark comes from gradually building up elements of language amongst players, who gain fluency in their own dialect over the course of play. From age to age, the isolation will change, and you'll see those changes reflected in their language. In the end, you'll define what happens to the language and the community. Players take away both the story they've told and the dialect they've built together. The thought gathering. Gathering people to play is the most important thing you'll do. Find people who will be excited to build on each other's ideas. The group should be genuinely curious to see what the rest of the table is creating, rather than only focusing on their own contributions. To be honest, that's probably a requirement for any game to be good. And then we're going to talk about new to role-playing, so we're going to have a role-playing bit, no doubt. But at least it's sort of embedded in the dialect thing. Excuse me. So this is our story. While playing Dialect, everyone will have equal say over the world and the language you build in it. The rules guide you to establish what's true together. The rules live in ink. The game is more than rules. We are people and play is messy. No amount of ink can lead us perfectly through that journey. In play and storytelling, a human touch is necessary to guide the experience. Facilitator is the shepherd on that path. Okay, so whilst it's GM-less, we still have a facilitator of sorts. Okay. The facilitator. So it's typical for players who teach the rules to become the de facto guide to ensure the game runs smoothly. We believe in being a little bit more deliberate. By explicitly designing a facilitator, the other players recognise this player has a special role in keeping the game fun and engaging for everyone. Choose a facilitator before starting your game. As a facilitator, here is your charter. So almost like your principles. Okay, so we've got 3 of them, which are know the game, keep play tight, and make space. So know the game. You'll be the one teaching the rules and making sure the players are holding to them. You should have an idea of how the game flows before starting, but you don't need to know everything by heart. Keep play tight. Well, sometimes a call needs to be made. Perhaps a discussion is taking too long, or 2 players seem unable to resolve a created dispute. You're there to push folks to a consensus or to make a choice. Think of ways that both parties' inputs can be part of the outcome. And then finally, make space. Be the voice for the shy or unheard. If someone is having trouble getting their ideas across, or if they seem uncomfortable interjecting on their own, be the person who asks for their input and gives them the spotlight. Help them to be a part of the story, and your game will be richer for it. You'll also be the one that making sure that everyone feels safe together. Discuss safety with your players before the game starts. This is covered in the appendix. Very good. Okay. Being a facilitator is work, but it is good work. You'll still get to play, and you'll be helping your friends share in the best possible experience together. You are why this game is happening. Thank you. Okay, that's quite a nice little intro to what is expected of the facilitator, and like I said, it's encroached into those dialect sort of themes, which I quite like. So, telling a story together. We live for stories. They put meaning behind the ebb and flow of days. We see the world through the prism of our stories, and in big and humble ways. They form our legacy. Building a fiction together with friends is a particular kind of fun where you mix and muddle ideas and end up in unexpected places. Your players are the lifeblood of the game, and together you'll be enacting a ritual performed since time immemorial. Get ready. Let us share 3 mottos to gently guide your play. So your player principles. With them, your group can dig in regardless of experience level. If this kind of game is new to your players, consider reviewing these points before you start. So, be obvious, listen, be kind. A story isn't a competition to be original, clever, or funny. That's stand-up for you. Be authentic and grant yourself permission to do the obvious thing. This will make the game more fun, less stressful, and more honest. By combining what is obvious to all of us together, we will make something that is anything but. Listen. When someone introduces an idea, encourage them to build on it. See where it goes. Embrace it when someone takes your idea in an unanticipated direction. Together, you'll create something more intricate and wonderful than you ever could alone, but only if you listen to one another. And finally, be kind. Being creative is being vulnerable. We're here first and foremost as people and as friends. Value the people at the table more than the game. If someone seems uncomfortable, or if you sense something is amiss, think about why that might be. Try to help. As you build your language and world, keep these 3 principles in mind. Use the words others introduce, and be excited when someone uses yours in a way you hadn't rigidly considered. Think about how you can highlight what others have made. What a gorgeous image! A nice long, big faceplate there. Oh, the colours are gorgeous. But no alt text. Duh. And another one. Oh, that's... Oh, let me see. Can we have a 2-page? No. Ah. One day it will work. Alright. Oh, the detail is so crisp on it, though. Almost like pen drawing is incredible. Alright, let's go to that big chapter of Rules of Play. Chapter 2. Should have got my water before I came here. Words strain, crack and sometimes break under the burden, under tension. Slip, slide, perish. Decay with imprecision will not stay in place, will not stay still. T.S. Eliot. Righty. So, before you start the game, your game is a conversation, and we're here to guide you through it. At a high level, Dialect is about telling the story of a group of people by building their language. They are known as the Isolation. As the game progresses, the language the players make together will bend, change, and eventually break as the story of the Isolation comes to an end. Feels very much like the Quiet Year kind of vibes, right, by Avery Alder, with Buried Without Ceremony games. The game takes place over a sequence of turns. Each turn, a player will play a card from their hand. With this card, they will change the language in some important way for the community. This may mean defining a new piece of language, changing existing words as the Isolation evolves, or ultimately removing pieces of language as the story demands. Over the course of the game, your group will build a dialect that is particular to you and you alone. Players will embody a character that will be their voice in the Isolation. Each character will have a different relationship to the fundamental traits of the community, and this will manifest in who they are and how they speak. In what follows, we'll teach you how to prepare for a game of Dialect. So, let's discuss how the rules of Dialect are structured. These are divided into sections corresponding to the different phases of play in order that you'll need them whilst running a game. Okay, so there is like some sort of like structured flow, a bit like Good Society then. So first of all, we have creating the Isolation, so the actual group themselves, communally building the world of the Isolation together, starting from a play set. Creating characters, defining who you'll be within the Isolation. And then we'll have the turn sequence, so the core flow of the game and the engine for language building. And then the ages, the way we progress the story of the Isolation. These sections are broken down into steps to further explain how that portion of the game is played. Each step begins with a set of core rules and bullet points. Here's an example of what it looks like. Nice to see that. After the core rules, there's some notes and principles to help the facilitator. And these will provide context and clarification to guide play and make the most of your game. Lurky. JC Darcy, you are perceived. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope you're doing well. You've come to Dialect, the game of language and how it dies. So I hope you're doing well. I hope the family are doing well as well. I've also got the afternoon off, so... So, teaching Dialect. At this point, it's helpful to understand how the game is taught, so you know what to internalise whilst reading the rules. Dialect is taught one step at a time. Rather than teaching all the rules up front, we recommend starting your game by diving directly into creating the Isolation on page 15. And this can be done as a step-by-step manner where the facilitator explains each step of the process as the players need it. Do this by summarising the core rules for the phase as you get to them. The only part of Dialect that requires upfront explanation is when it's time to take the first turn. We recommend that the facilitator does this by taking the first turn and explaining as they go. After their turn is over, they should introduce variants and action cards. Great. I like already... it's great to have that bit of advice about teaching a game, because a lot of the times it's talking about like how do you run a game, etc. But actually teaching the core mechanics of a game kind of gets left out. So already I'm liking this. I mean, first of all, it's incredibly easy to read, which I very much appreciate that for reading out loud. But also I'm like, oh yeah, how would I teach this? And it's like we've broken it down deliberately, so hopefully the structure will help you through that. So yeah, very much appreciate that. Let's see, let's go for a quick reference for how all these rules fit together. See page 66. Printable versions of a structure play along with other material as available at thornygames.dialect. So there is a reference, handout references as well. Fantastic. So, gathering a few essentials is the only preparation you'll need for Dialect. The story itself will come out in play. Before delving deep, have ready 3 to 5 friendly players, including yourself. I'm like, oh yes, I'll just get them out the cupboard. The language deck came with the game. A set of index cards, 20 to 30 should be plenty. God, 20 to 30, okay. A pen or something to write with, and a tabletop or other flat surface on which to play. Nice, nice, nice. So once all the players are gathered, open the game by sharing some words about what lies ahead. Set the tone and give an overview of what Dialect is, and do this through your own words or by reading the text below. In Dialect, we follow an isolated community from its beginning, rise and end. We'll tell their story by building their language. New words will come from the fundamental aspects of the community. Who they are, what they believed in, or what they believe in, and how they respond to a changing world, probably also a challenging world. Together, we will decide what they become. Taking care. After this welcome, we recommend sharing a few words of taking care of each other. These words should be rooted in the golden rule of gaming: the players are more important than the game. To help you with this, there are many tools that can support play with compassion. Oh, playing with compassion, I like that. Consider what best suits your players. We offer a recommendation in the appendix. Let it be a beacon during play and a promise you make to watch out for yourself and one another. If your group is new to collaborative storytelling, or you feel it's a helpful reminder, read out the guiding principles shared in the previous chapter. Yeah, always good to have that. It's nice that it's written in such a way that you could easily read it out to the players so you don't have to make up some sort of speech. So, next up we prepare the play space. So Dialect is played in a space we lovingly refer to as the language tableau. Oh, love that. This is home to aspects that define the community, and most importantly, the language that evolves from them. Find a table or a flat area to play. Language tends to spread, so make sure there is ample room. To set up, take 3 blank index cards and create 3 points of language 3 points of a large triangle in the centre of the table. Place them far enough apart so that 2 additional index cards can fit in between the triangle's outer points and its centre as depicted below. Okay. Ooh. Oh, that's cool. Oh, wow. Age 1, Age 2, and Age 3. Okay. So the story of the isolation will span 3 ages. With each age, you'll place another ring of index cards closer to the centre. A language tableau can be clean and simple, or optionally more adorned by separating out the rings for the ages with string or other material. If you're up for this extra ritual, read more about it in the appendix. Oh, cool, cool, cool. My language is my awakening. It's a Maori saying. Very cool. Oh gosh, look at it. I love this. It reminds me very much of Bluebeard's Bride, published by Magpie Games. They had that same sort of thing where they'd have a single colour that would really highlight like something in the image. Gosh, that red is just absolutely gorgeous. Alright. Creating the isolation. So this is creating the community at large then. So your first step will be defining the world in which you play. At the centre of this world is a speech community known as the Isolation. A set of people who share a place and purpose that binds them together in how they live and how they speak. Making this community is a simple process done in 4 phases. Pick a backdrop, define aspects, answer community questions, and name your isolation. So only 4 steps. Fantastic. So backdrops are settings in which you tell your story. Each explores a different take on a community and language loss. And then each backdrop provides guidelines for generating 3 pillars of the community called aspects. These are the major traits of the isolation that will focus on language creation. Add definition and depth to the isolation by answering questions provided in the backdrop. Then finally, choose what the community calls itself. Yeah, so again, that idea of a play set, the community, they all have questions or prompts, or a little bit of like inspirational sort of prompts, etc. to come up with. So yeah, like Good Society has it, Fiasco has it, that same sort of vibe, getting that setting and just inputting it in very simply. So this chapter will guide us through each of these steps. So let's pick a backdrop. So to start the game, choose a playset that defines the bones of the setting and the source of the isolation. The playsets are called backdrops and follow the steps below to begin. So select an appropriate backdrop for your group. There's a list that can be chosen from starting on page 68. For the first game, we suggest picking one that's simple and easy to visualize, like the Outpost. A stranded Martian expedition is a good fit. Ultimately, go with what moves you. Read the backdrop description aloud. So pick someone at the table to read the description of the backdrop, which is right under the title. This will give everyone a taste of the setting. A backdrop provides a baseline for your isolation, and in the steps to come, you will make your own. You'll make it your own. Sorry, I'll get that right. In the steps to come, you will make it your own. A note on tone. So when choosing a backdrop, be intentional about the tone you're after. Dialect can hit many notes: serious, whimsical, silly, and starkly emotional. If your group wants a light-hearted session, pick a backdrop that can support it. Whilst all 4 core backdrops carry a wide variety of tones, some of the contributed backdrops deal with personal and sensitive issues. When selecting, take care that the players are all interested in the backdrop's style of play and get ready to treat that that topic appropriately. Play bravely and have fun. Define the aspects. So this is part 2. So now you've determined the 3 major parts of the community that will be in focus during play. These defining traits are called aspects and are generated using questions provided in the backdrop. Aspects are either a single word or a short phrase that represents something fundamental about the isolation. These will be touchstones in your society and the initial seeds from which the language grows. So we answer 2 aspect generation questions and then pick your free aspect. As a group, resolve the aspect generation questions provided in the backdrop to create your first 2 aspects. Listen to each other and see what suggestion excites most in the moment. Once you've chosen an aspect, write it down on one of the index cards previously set out. The third aspect is a free choice left up to the players. Together you should pick something that you are interested in exploring, and then write it on the last remaining index card. To ground this even further, here's some examples to the aspect generation questions for the Outpost. Oh great, fantastic. So we're actually seeing a simple play example here. These are meant to be illustrative of what, rather than a list to choose from. For any aspect you end up with, there's always a short discussion about what that means for your community. Excuse me. In particular, to make sure players aren't interpreting an answer differently. So we have questions such as, for example, what brought us all together for this mission? What about Mars defines daily life? And a free aspect, the choice is yours. And so we've got some examples here. So Earth was destroyed by war. They're prisoners. Some sort of grand social experiment. Stoffards. United Nations expedition. Environmental collapse. We've got extreme irradiation. Extreme. Shrine to the NASA's Mars rover. Right. All good stuff. The principles for defining aspects. So when choosing aspects, it's important to pick ones that will set the stage for lively play and vibrant language that will matter to the community. With that in mind, here are 3 guiding principles to reach for. Make them big, make them clear, make them bite. All language generated will be tied to an aspect. Don't avoid the clear, obvious parts of the isolation. Lean on them. If they are fundamental to the community, they should be reflected in the language. If you don't have an aspect for something important, you won't be making language from it when the time comes. Ensure that everyone at the table has the same understanding of what an aspect means. Avoid using terms that may have different meanings in different contexts without clarifying them. Have a discussion about ambiguous aspects and revise them to be more specific. Boom. Oh, hello, Dead Toothbrush. Hello, how are you doing, my friend? Hope you're having a good Friday. Welcome to Dialect, a game about language and how it dies. And my pronunciations are going to be shot. Revise it to be more specific. Yeah. Make aspects that people care about. Have them be the pivots for interesting relationships in the community. If it's not something that no one in the isolation is losing sleep over, it's probably not interesting enough to be an aspect. taking my shoes off because my feet are hot. I've tied them on too tight. I've got some new shoes and they keep slipping off my feet, or the laces keep untying. Oh, that's better. They keep untying, so I almost slipped over in the icy weather today. I mean, I'm also wearing Converse as well, so it doesn't help. So, as a facilitator, steer the discussion. If the answer sounds too vague, push the group to refine it. If it's not too toast? What is that word? Toast? Ask them to ramp it up. I'm gonna have to look that word afterwards. I've never heard that word. Actually, sorry, I'm gonna look it up now. She says trying to find it, instantly trying to find it. Oh, I could turn it off, but I'm not going. Yeah, actually I will, so you guys can't see what I'm doing. Hehehe. Oh, it means a timid or feeble person. Feeble, insipid, or bland. Wow. Why didn't you just say bland? I mean, it's a game about language. What am I talking about? It's a game about language. What you will have just made is aspects for age 1. As you continue playing and move through the ages, you'll define new aspects for the community. Excuse me. As it changes in ways big and small. Oh, I've got a play example. We don't need to play example. Okay. I mean, it's good to have. And I like how it's just one page. Good play example. I've also not noted that this is also one columned as well. Last couple of things we've read are usually double columned, and it takes forever to get through the books. I very much appreciate a single column RPG. So the third thing we have to do when creating the isolation is answer community questions. 5 community questions accompany each backdrop. Answer them to establish the setting and reveal details of the isolation. Ask each player 1 question in order. In games with 3 or 4 players, some questions will go unanswered. Answers can be long or short as the player desires. Start with the player to the left of the facilitator. When this is done, the foundation for the isolation is set. Now is the moment to reflect on any burning questions you may have about the world and answer them as a group. The rest of the isolation story will come out in play. Okay, very straightforward. And there's another play example there. Oh, the final step, of course, is naming the isolation. The names are deeply meaningful. The act of naming, it says something about what is named and who does the naming. The same holds true in the isolation. Together, you will now finish assembling your community by coming up with a name for it. So we name the isolation and write that name on an index card. As a group, decide how many members of the community refer to the isolation, and then you place that name of it on an index card outside of a language tableau for all the players to see. This name should reflect something about how its members of the isolation view themselves. The community may have other names like an official title or what outsiders call them, but those don't matter right now. The name you are defining is the one used by the isolation itself. Take stock of the aspects and your answer to the community questions whilst making your choice. Oh wow, look at that image. Yeah, we've had that quote before. We die, that may be the meaning of life, but we do language, that may be the measure of our lives. We had that quote earlier. A great picture there. I wonder, again, maybe they do it. It'd be good to have like postcards or stickers of these particular like what are they like? Motivational quotes. I was going to say quotational motes. I'm swapping all my languages around today. All right, so stage 1 is done. We've created that group isolation, which is what the story is going to be about. But then we're going to go into number 2, which is creating characters. So, language is the domination of people. We say it, wield it, bend it, make it. As an individual, how you use language is a window to how you are. In dialect, it will be at the core of who you are in the isolation. To this end, each player will create a character to be their voice, and you'll do this in 2 phases. You'll pick an archetype and then give an introduction. Archetypes are baselines from which you build your character. Each archetype has a connection to the aspects that ties your character to the language and community in a unique way. We then ground your character in the setting based on their archetype and introduce them to the group. Whilst doing so, you will explicitly define how they relate to the 3 aspects of the isolation as prompted by the archetype card. Like any community, the isolation is colourful and complicated. Characters aren't carbon copies, and not everyone will identify with all of the isolation's aspects equally. Humans and groups feed on a natural friction, and you'll see this played out in the story and language. A word that one character uses casually may be deeply meaningful to another. How you speak to those you trust, to those with power, in moments of strength and weakness, will draw a line between you and others. In this way, language gains meaning, both at a level of the world and the individual. So, let's pick an archetype. The facilitator starts this phase by dealing out 3 archetype cards pictured below to each player, and after this, a player should select one of the cards as an archetype for their character and set the rest aside. Read the cards aloud and give a brief outline for a concept of your character. In this outline, mention which aspects you'll focus on with your character. Later, when giving an introduction, you will determine their relationship to the aspects as prompted on the archetype card. These relationships will be discussed in the next phase, but consider them as you choose your archetype to feel free to share budding ideas. Make characters that will be important to one another and relate in interesting ways. For example, if a character card says a character fears one of the aspects during the introductions, you will name that aspect that incites the fear and how the fear is manifest. If an archetype says a character identifies with an aspect, that means a crucial part of the character's identity is bound to that aspect. Okay, so here's an example of a archetype card. So we've got the name of it at the top, which is Explorer. We've got why are they important? So we rely on the Explorer to venture beyond where the rest of us do, to push the boundaries and uncover new potential. People talk to you about the not talk down to you. People talk to you about the unknown, and then your relationship with the aspects that you identify with all the relationships. You identify with all the aspects. You know there's undiscovered potential in one. These are really cool, actually. So they're not very rigid. They're very loosely written, like beautifully short and efficiently written. But you can really like jump off or be inspired by a couple of these things. Sorry, I got a message and I can't answer it right now. So yeah, these archetypes. So that's cool. I also like how you basically have to come to this game with no with no like prior knowledge about what you want. You know, you discuss like the tones and stuff and what kind of stories you like to create, but you can't really come up with like a specific character. So these are just examples of like the kinds of characters, the kind of archetypes doing. I really like that. It feels like there's a lot to do that, and but the fact that you get given 3 cards and you pick one, there's still some choice, but it's narrowed down. You can't just go through them all. And I want to play this playbook, or I want to play this archetype. Yeah. This need not be absolute or changing. I think this might not be or something. Sorry, that's a weird way of phrasing it. Feel free to bend and evolve these relationships as the game progresses. It's not required that each aspect be the focus of at least one character, but it is good practice to ensure many perspectives on the community are represented in play. Then we have a play example. Give an introduction. So you pick so you don't even need, there's no stats or anything like that. You just pick the archetype and go from there. Take a few minutes to decide on a concept for your character based on the archetype you picked. A concept is a character's name, their role in the isolation, and their relationship to the aspects. After all the players have their character set, go around the table and let each player introduce their character. The vital pieces to cover during the introduction are their name. A name has 2 parts: their common name and what only some call them. Ooh. So the common name is how they're most commonly known. This might be their given name, a name they've chosen, or a ubiquitous Ubiquitous. Nickname. Each backdrop comes with a list of examples. That's good. We love examples. That sort of stuff. Let me just... Alright. I might change the music a little bit because it's getting a little bit on my nerves now as well. What only some call them. So choose a word or a phrase that some call your characters within the isolation that's different from their common name. Some examples are special nicknames, an honorific, an official title, or a name they'd rather forget. That makes me think of, I've been trying to catch up with Worlds Beyond Number and how Suvi's character, the people are important in her life, they go by sort of things like soft, stone, steel, you know, those sort of things, which I think that'd be quite good. If you go for like a material would be a really cool name, or a colour, blue. Alright, so once you've got their name, you've got the role in the isolation. Give a summary for the role the character plays in the isolation based on their archetype. Tell us why they are important to the community, and make it big and make it count. And finally, we've got the relationships to the aspects. Explain how your character feels about the community aspects, prompted by the relationship defined on the archetype card. Be specific. This connection will shape your character's relationship to the language and community. Before your introduction, fold an index card in half, write your character's name and what others call them. See example below. Like that. Very cool. A few notes on introductions. The steps of the introductions defined here give a baseline. I'll just move in a little bit. A bit more? Yeah, perfect. Feel free to add more. A physical description, particular quirks, family tree. Include anything about your character that you want the other players to know that may lead to interesting play. Whilst making introductions, relationships different characters have with the same aspects should start seeding connections between the characters. Oh, that's interesting. Perhaps two characters irrationally love the same thing. Perhaps one character is fanatically devoted to an aspect that another believes is a dangerous omen. As these touchpoints occur to you, talk them through as a group. Having at least a few characters closely entangled is the sweet spot. Introductions are a time to show the players at the table how you want them to interact with you in the game. Moreover, remember that this is the other player's chance to do the same. If they introduce their character as someone who has all the answers, don't undercut that casually. If they want to be caught between worlds, be one of the forces pulling on them. Players are telling you they're fun during introductions. By taking it to heart, you'll all have better play together. I like that. That's quite a good, straightforward, like, here's some advice on how to introduce your character. Could easily link into the Foundries thing that I always talk about as well. Aspects are the bedrock of your game. These are the essential strands that define and, at times, separate the isolation. Players must explicitly state their relationship to the aspects when giving introductions. Dialect shines when you're regularly pointing the story back into the aspects of the community. Character generation is no exception. Characters should have strong feelings about the world they live in. Sorry, my computer flickered then. I was like, uh-oh. Should have strong feelings about the world they live in for the language to grow in bold and unexpected ways. Tie everything back to the aspects. And then we've got a play example. I'm glad they're quite short. And so, oh, that's quite cool. Maybe you sit your players in between the aspects, so you have a separate triangle. Great. What is lost when a language dies? God, beautiful image. Again, that red really standing out there. So yeah, clearly the red is the theme in the imageries here. Oh, and then we go on to turn sequence. So that's the character creation and the isolation stuff all sorted out. We're actually flying through. That's 41 pages we're on, and the play stuff starts at, I think it was at page 67. Pretty good. A little bit more, just because too far. Too much. Dehance. With the world and the character set, you're ready to dive in. The turn sequence is the heart of the game and the engine for language creation. Each turn you will advance the story of the isolation and root that change in the language. In this way, the language and story will be bound together. As the turn revolves around playing cards from the language... a turn revolves revolves around playing cards from the language deck. This deck is divided into cards for each age by the number on the back of the card. Begin age 1 by dealing 3 cards for age 1 to each player. A turn in Dialect has 3 phases. Make a connection, build a word, have a conversation. Make a connection, build a card, pick a card from your hand and tie it to one of the aspects for the current age. Describe why this aspect has led to a new word for a concept on the card. Use the connection to build a new detail into the world. Build a word. Construct a new word or phrase for the concept based on the connection you've just made. This can be handled communally. Suggestions can come from anyone at the table. On your turn, you will make the final decision on what the new word will join the language. On what new word will join the language. Write the word on an index card and place it near the connected aspect. Have a conversation. Set the scene and hold a conversation in character inspired by the prompt at the bottom of the card. Play out the conversation until all the characters in the scene have made their relationship to the new word clear. Certain cards designated as action cards bend the normal flow of play. This may result in words changing, being generated through alternate means, or leaving the language, or even leaving the language. Okay. When you finished your turn, draw a card for the upcoming age. In other words, draw an age 2 card during age 1 and an age 3 card during age 2, but do not draw a card in age 3, so there's only 3 ages to go through. And after each player has taken a turn, you will move on to the next age. Okay. Make a connection, build a word, have a conversation. Alright. Connections are small stories about the isolation. They give us more insight into what the community is and what it may become. They are the first steps in the first steps in building the new language and the first phase of a turn. So to start your turn, make a connection by playing one of the cards from your hand on an aspect for the current age. By doing this, you are declaring the isolation's particular language for a concept at the top of the card has emerged from this aspect in the community. You may play any card in your hand, regardless of the age, on the back of the card. Oh, okay, great, interesting. Explain why this aspect has given rise to a new word or a phrase for the concept on the card. Do not decide yet what the new word is. Add a new detail into the story with this connection. Make a connection you have established something new about the story. It should be something that matters, a routine, a piece of history, an environmental feature, a recent event. These connective stories can be big or small, but they should always be important. If it helps, think of this action as inventing an etymology for a piece of language that does not yet exist. It soon will. So here's an example of these connection cards. Yeah, these. So we've got friend, story, etc. Okay. Friend. This is a type of friendship unique to the isolation, a bond that comes from a shared activity or a particular way we regard each other. And then the conversation prompt is a relevation. No, sorry, a discovery, a reveal, relevation. No, I can't say it. Typical. Makes no difference. Okay. The principles for connections. Build the world you want to play in. Whilst making a connection, you can interpret the connection on the card in whatever way is most interesting for your game. For example, you might interpret the word work as a general substitution for all labour, a particular class of job in the isolation, or more broadly, as an unpleasant routine you must all perform. The cards serve up rich concepts for building language, but you have the latitude to make them fit for your story. Be deliberate about making connections. As a facilitator, apart from making sure your players are happy and healthy, your biggest duty is to make sure that your players are making deep, deliberate connections at this stage. Jumping directly to word building is a natural temptation, an understandable instinct given the excitement of wordplay. But explicit connections forge bonds between the world and the language. They ensure the language reflects the community, which reflects the language, and so on and so on. So let's read through this play example because I want to see how this works. So, all right, I'm going to pair the card friend with the aspect Martian sandstorms. Now, why is our word for friend linked to that aspect? Well, you know what? I bet that during our long freight trips, when a hauler goes for a sandstorm, they need keep a constant communication link open with someone back at their HAB module, someone who makes sure they are safe and still responsive. These trips take as much of a mental toll as a physical one. Being someone's safety line is a deep form of friendship. In this case, I'm defining a word for a specific friendship rather than a friendship as a whole. Is that all right? It can be either way. Oh, okay, so I like that. So that's how you would start off, by like giving a suggestion for stuff. Hey. Oh, hello, Dungeon Amster. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Nice to have you here. We're just we're going through Dialect, which is a language game about creating a new language and how it dies. So far, it's really good. It's very straightforward. Glad to have you here. I hope you're having a wonderful afternoon. So, second part of his sort of sequence is that we build a word. So it's now time to add a piece of new language to your world. We do this by following the 2 steps. We've got using the connection from a previous phase, build a new word. Oh, using a connection from a previous phase, build a new word or phrase for the concept, and then add the new language item to the language tableau. So, this is talking about that connection. This is a free-form discussion. All players may contribute, but you, in brackets the player who made the connection, will have a final call on what joins the language. Guide the discussion and feel free to tell others what type of word you're looking for. And then add the new language item to the language tableau. Cut an index card in half through the long way. Fold it so it can stand on its own. The next player in the turn order should then write the new word and its origin concept on both sides of the card. These new words or phrases are called language items, and then place it on the aspect used to generate the connection. So here's an example here. I see. Okay. Building language together. For the remainder of the section, we'll give you tools and guidance for language building along with examples. Below is an example language item to follow along with how the new word it was constructed. See the play example on page 39. So that's what it would look like in the end. And bracket. Okay, great. I am, thanks, happy to finally catch an Auntie Fee stream. Oh, thank you, Dungeon Amster. Oh. Hope you've got some good plans for the weekend. I bet it's freezing where you are on the seafront. It's freezing here. I've got my hoodie on. I have to go out later, hence why the stream is a little bit earlier. And I'm looking forward to going out. I'm going to see a musical, classic. But I'm like, is it worth the cold? So, principles for word building. So to help you guide through this experience, we have a few words of advice. Draw from the connection, trust your tastes, and you are not a committee. So, make the story and the connection with the aspect the inspiration for the language you create. Let the word reflect what it comes from. Trust your taste. In what follows, you will find example patterns for creating your new piece of language, but don't feel constrained by them. If you think of a new word that doesn't fit the patterns we give, that's fine. Think on how words change. Be free and creative with how you build new linguistic materials. As a human, you are excellent at wielding language. Lean into it. Well, I definitely wield language, but just in the wrong order. You are not a committee. On your turn, you will choose what enters the language. You will lead the discussion, and you are encouraged to guide the group in a direction that speaks to you. You may even suggest a word at the start of your turn, or choose one without input if the perfect word strikes. The final choice is yours. By default, most of the new words you build in Dialect will have an etymology in the language you speak as players. This ensures that the logic and history of your new language is always within grasp. You'll also have the chance to construct truly new words through a create a word card. Very good. I love these red boxes of like, here's some advice. A few words of inspiration. In this phase, you'll be using the connection you made to the community aspects to invent new vocabulary. We have some encouragement to share before you start. Words are your weapons and your toys. They are small packets of meaning for you to shape to your purpose. Make them lyrical and punchy, silly and brutal. Deploy them to do what you want. Have an opinion about what they will become and let them change. By building language, you are codifying parts of your culture. By using your new language, you are forming tactic bonds with each other. And say your words, you are affirming the truth in your. I probably would have that, like, those 3 lines. I probably have that on a player sheet somewhere, or have it as a reference to be like, we're building language, we're using it, and we're saying it. Always say saying it. Just working on my PhD application all weekend, having a date night on Saturday now. Ah, excellent, excellent. What's the plan for date night? Is it cinema trip? Is it staying indoors? That's my favourite kind of date night, is remaining indoors. Building words. At heart, build a word is a free-form section of a turn. You are a natural language processor by nature, after all. Here's a list of techniques for your language toolbox based on some real ways that words change. They're not exhaustive, but they should be helpful as you play. As facilitator, review this list before your game so you can offer techniques to your players as suggestions during this phase. Ah, smart. Many of these techniques can be used in combination. So repurpose a word. Take an existing word or phrase and repurpose it according to the connection within the aspect to make a connection phase. For example, a community where those in the founder's lineage are particularly revered might use the word descendant as a general honorific, a job title, or even a term of friendship. Ooh, I like that. I like having examples. Combine words. By combining multiple words together, you can make new ones with distinct meaning for your game. So make a compound. Take the words that work together to evoke a connection and combine them to form a compound word. Consider how combinations like firefly, grasshopper, and bookworm can all use component words in a literal or figurative sense. Cinema trip always. Stuck between Poor Things, I saw it last week and loved it, or Anyone But You. Oh, I don't know Anyone But You. But I've heard mixed things about Poor Things. It looks cracking. It absolutely looks cracking, and so I would definitely see it at some point. But I did hear mixed things. I did see some. What's the best word to describe it? We're talking about dialect words. It was a lot of very. It was very critiqued. But I wondered if that was more because of the book it came from or the story that it came from. I don't know. Whoever's calling me, stop calling me. They're not watching the stream. It's fine. And then, so that's fine. Blend the words. Take words that reinforce or refine the connection and smash them together. If your words live on an uneasy boundary of 2 ideologies, blending the word is a great way to bring them to that forefront. Like how the words cyborg, cybernetic, and organism, I did not know that, I'll be honest, is in many ways an embodiment of the tension between modern technology and humanity. That's really cool. I did not know that. Use an acronym. Hooray! Create a phrase related to the connection and make an acronym out of it. Remember, acronyms can come in many flavors and may be initial-based, like NATO, or syllable-based, like, what's that word? Benelux? Clip the word or phrase. If the word or phrase is long, complicated, or used often, people may abbreviate it in interesting ways. Think of it as a clipped word like gas, for a ubiquitous resource of gasoline. Oh, okay. Or for other clip targets, consider flu for influenza, which is cut both at the start and end. Oh, this is the Riz conversation all over. Incorporate a sound, a drip that never drops, a constant clamour and clang that signals good work is in progress. Onomatopoeia is a great place to start from whilst building words with a strong tie to the physical community. A society surrounded by horses may incorporate their sounds into speech. Oh yeah, that's true. Whilst one under a barrage of bleeps and whistles will be influenced otherwise. These sounds themselves may pick up meaning or be incorporated into other words that reinforce connection. That's an interesting point. I wonder if, because I'm now thinking of like when myself and Uncle Hamilton, or Hamilton, we talked about recently for a DM's book club, which is not out yet, I realise. We talked about like how in Planescape and in all the sort of like outer planes and all that sort of thing, the language it uses, like it's come up with its own like group of phrases like Burke, the dark of it, the chant of it, all that sort of thing, and how like we really like that as readers and as players and people who like take this sort of lore in. And it's a shame that there is like a couple of like terminology guides, etc., but there's not more of that. I wonder if a challenge would be like making a language that is composed of not just words but having sounds within those words as well. Like obviously there are some languages still dying out, but they use like clicks and like noises that made through like tongue movements. Yeah, it's clicking, I think that's what it that the whole language from that, because that'd be just something interesting to try. This is talking about Poor Things, Dungeon Amster. It is very absurdist and satirical, but I like that kind of thing. Anyone But You is the new rom-com that's based on Much Ado About Nothing. Oh, interesting. Oh, okay, I will check that out. Who's in that one, Amster? Who's in Anyone But You? Is this that? I swear I'm going to show my age a lot here. There's 10 Things I Hate About You with Heath Ledger. Was that also based on Much Ado About Nothing, or have I got that as... Oh, no, As You Like It, right? That must be what it was. As It Like It? Or was that Kiss Me? No, Kiss Me Kate. It's Taming of the Shrew. I think it's Taming of the Shrew is 10 Things I Hate About You. That's what it was. Screw up words. Take a word and mispronounce it. Hooray! And use it in the wrong context. Think of a concept your isolation only experiences in passing, or a way in which they see the world differently. Not all of these may be mistakes. Use it as a moment to be playful, and presumably finally convert them, yes. Take a word evoked by the connection and adapt it to a different part of speech than its original form. For instance, what you thought as a noun to describe a group might become an activity or ritual that characterizes them. In the words of Bill Watterson, verbing weirds language. Oh, and here's some examples as well. I'm really pleased that they've got examples for this. It's quite interesting, isn't it? To the ground this process even further, consider the examples below. You'll find concept aspect pairings along with some example connections made during the first phase of the turn. For each pair, we'll propose a few possible candidates for new language items based on the connection. So we've got the concept here of wonderful. The aspects of one of the three aspects in that first phase, we've got biological augmentations, and we've got the concept of wonderful. And the connection is receiving new implants is accompanied by an intense synthetic euphoria during surgery. We see shades of it in everything wonderful, and it has infiltrated our speech. The proposals include verju, which is version and jump, patch, patch is a good one, crackle, the sound of new implants, and augpro, so augmentation procedure. Ah, okay. I see now. That's interesting. We won't go through them all. There's a play example here of how it goes about. That's nice. Another play example, also good. Another play example. Hey, I'm all for it. For more inspiration in generating words, take a look at David Peterson's chapter on word building. So he does do actual essay on it. I might read that later then, off stream. Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. I'll be honest, that's two people I've never heard of. I'm sure they're really lovely. I'm sure they're good. I just know that's Taming of the Shrew. Yeah. Got there eventually. My old auntie brain's not in it. Have a conversation. So then, the final phase of the turn, play out a scene in character based on the prompt at the bottom of the card. This scene will highlight the language you've made. So follow these steps. So you read the prompt at the bottom of the card played this turn, and this will act as the prompt for the conversation, where you'll use the language you just made. Choose at least two characters to have the conversation. This could be done by the players whose turn it is. You may choose yourself to be in the conversation, but that is not required. Feel free to discuss who makes sense to be included in this scene. The conversation participants set the scene. They should answer two questions. Where are we? What are we doing? The participants will then have a conversation that demonstrates their relationship to the new word defined. Feels very much like that fiasco building a scene stuff when you go around, which, again, quite cool in that way. All participants in the conversation should either use the word, conspicuously avoid using it, or explore the shade in between. Once all the characters in the conversation have shown their relationship to the word and the prompt is resolved, anyone at the table may end the scene. So anyone can edit it. Fantastic. In conversations, how you use language helps define your character. Think of interesting ways your character might use the word at hand based on what they believe. Shout it, avoid it, repeat it, carve it into walls. Your story hangs on the characters you play. For that reason, the conversation should only include characters at the table. So you always refer to yourselves. You don't need to refer to people outside of it. Oh, I was going to say something else. There is only one exception to this. If the prompt that has the may include outsiders tag, you can involve characters in conversations other than the main characters created by the players. In those cases, anyone at the table may take on the role of an outsider called for by the player choosing to participate. Okay, I see. Outsiders may be either internal or external to the isolation. These characters do not need to demonstrate their relationship to the word in order to end the scene. The may include outsiders tag doesn't occur to age 3, so we recommend the facilitator waiting on introducing this rule until you start drawing age 3 cards. Great. Then we've got some principles for conversations. So these are your North Star for conversations while exploring language and story. So discover the story through play, end your scenes, and then use the language as it grows. So scenes are the space to deepen your character and strengthen the relations and the story, and progress the story. Don't be afraid to make impactful actions and make decisions in the moment. End the scenes. Make your scenes short and punchy, and keep the focus on the language. To end a scene, we like to use a deliberate word like cut, or a hand motion, or edit. Edit is the one we use in improv. Remember that anyone at the table is empowered to end the scene. Players not actively in the conversation should be watching for satisfying notes to end on. This could really be a good improv tool then, a good training for improv tool if it's about editing scenes. That's food for thought. Keep using the language you define over the course of the game to sustain it. Don't limit yourself to only the word defined on the current term. Let it become natural to speak in your own dialect. Very cool. Alright, so ending your turn. Once the conversation is over, so is your turn. End it by drawing a new card for the upcoming age and adding it to your hand, i.e. draw an age 2 card whilst in age 1, an age 3, and age 2. If you're already in age 3, skip the draw phase, as legacy cards will be distributed separately. After your conversation is over and you have redrawn a card, it is time for the next player to take their turn. After each player has taken a turn in a particular age, the play proceeds to the next age, which we'll go on to in a bit. Here's another example. Right. Yeah. Alright, variants. See what this is. How we're doing. Okay, an hour and a half, not too bad. A variant is a language item related to one already defined on the tableau. Any player can create a variant at any time. It doesn't count as a turn. But to make a variant, you discard any card from your hand. This is the cost of defining a variant. The text on the discarded card is irrelevant. Okay, so there's a discard pile as well. Declare the new word or phrase you're defining and what language item it's related to. Don't go through the normal turn sequence. In particular, don't make a connection, don't build a word collaboratively, and don't have a conversation. And just add it to the language tableau. Write down the variant as a language item and place it next to the item it's related to. And then draw an item, draw a card for an upcoming age as in a normal turn. These are an optional but compelling way to further build out your language tableau. By building variants, you'll build a fuller record of your play and a richer language. They're also a means to draw new cards for subsequent turns. Strictly speaking, you're never beholden to the words on the table during conversation. Language finds a way. It evolves. In conversations, you're always able and encouraged to use natural extensions of existing language items or adapt them to different parts of speech. When this happens, variants are a good way to codify it. Of course, you may also define variants that you haven't used yet in conversation in order to introduce something new. I do like this as an optional rule, because you constantly always come up with don't do a Hamilton, don't do a Fiona. We've used that actually in DM's book club. Now that I think about it, to do with Fiona is to read through and read the top bit and the bottom bit, and then skip through the middle bit of a dungeon when you're reading for a dungeon. And what's a Hamilton? A Hamilton is to do a rant about something. Go off on a Hamilton is ranting, and then Fiona is to skip through the main. It's just the main body of the text and to read the main points. So there you go. There's some examples here. That anything linguistically connected to a previously defined language item is fair game for defining a variant. Here are a few concepts, concrete types of variants that you might define during a game. So we've got extensions of existing concepts and words with shared elements. Oh, we love a good Hamilton rant. We do. We do, Amster. We really do. It's so funny because I'll sit there and then eventually he'll finish. He'll run out of steam and he goes, "Sorry." And I'm like, no. This clearly was on your mind and it's absolutely fine. Okay, so extensions of existing concepts and words with shared elements. If a word has a natural analogue that is begging for definition, consider making it a variant. If you already defined a word for a unit of time in the future, you could define a parallel concept in the past using a variant. Ooh. And then variants can be made for any concept by reusing components or sounds of previously defined words. This is a great way to define concepts that are deeply meaningful to your isolation that may not be reflected on a card from the language deck. Ooh, a word becomes a seed, a Korean proverb. Let's see what a play example of this would be like. So I'm taking bad omen and connecting it to we're running from the past. Even though we've promised our offences to be forgiven by being a part of this mission, there are still people who have access to our files. If a crime has been committed or if someone is under investigation, there are people who need to check whether or not the perpetrator background requires additional scrutiny. Being under one of these investigations involves hearing your old name, seeing pictures of your family, most stuff that most of us would rather never have to do again. Our word for any bad omen or dread originated from this. So if we're feeling like we're dreading the future, our file is being pulled, something like that. But I'd love to bring in the fact that most of us have voluntarily left our families behind. That's really poignant and sad. Maybe seeing them, and everyone else just knows who they are. This is probably the only time you'll see pictures of your family, so that's going to drum up a lot of emotion. So whenever we think of something as bad omen, we're seeing them in it. Like, I'm seeing them in this run, Sal. Be careful. Oh, that's terrible and messed up and sad. I really like the idea that our vision for dread is built off confronting our past. And with that, I'd like to introduce a variant on this phase. I think they're looking back, or they see us, is just perfect for death. Like we see them, and it's a bad omen. They look back, and it's all over. I think it's used to, like, I had some bad news. Someone needs to cover Merc's shift. They saw him last. Sam writes the phrase on a card and puts seeing them on the tableau. Then they discard one card from the hand and redraw. So just to check now, our conversation is still going to be about seeing them. Right. You're free to use they see us in conversation, but you don't have to. Ah, interesting. Ooh, and there you go. I love these. I love these little drawing examples. They're great, aren't they? And the only thing I'd say, there's no alt text. Not that I appreciate you guys wouldn't be able to see it because of the way the OBS is set up. It doesn't pop up with the alt text, but as I said, the fact that Wander Home had alt text for everything, I'm like, oh. Okay, so then we've got action cards. So action cards bend the normal flow of game by introducing special rules for modifying the language. They may be played in like any other cards to start the turn. Instead of introducing a piece of language for a new concept, these cards pivot off existing language items to create or modify words. So action cards can modify core phrases of a turn as written on the card. Phrases are not listed are played through normally. I'm guessing the age, is that what it's talking about? So we've got an example here. So here we have the subgroup synonym action. So it's an action, an explanation of what the action does. So a faction within the isolation doesn't use one of the existing words like the others do. They've created a new word. Oh, I know who the text. It's it's my ticket. They're saying like my ticket's ready. I was like, I know. A faction within the isolation doesn't use one of the existing words like the others do. They've created a new word for an existing concept. An explanation of how this card modifies the term. To make a connection, pick a previously defined word, explain why a group in the isolation has another word for the same concept. And then you've got the conversations prompt, that sort of prompt for the scene is a movement spreads. Oh. With this card, you're called to define a new piece of language used by a particular subgroup in the isolation. It describes the ways in which the make a connection phase should be modified. Rather than making a connection between a concept on the card and an aspect, play on an existing language item and build a synonym used by a particular group. Since the build a word and have a conversation phases are not modified, they are handled normally. Right, I get you. Communally build a word for the synonym and have a conversation using the prompt at the bottom of the card. Right, I understand. If an action card modifies the meaning of a language item, or if you find meaning naturally shifting over time, write the new meaning on the language item in the way you find most appropriate given the context. And we've got another play example. I like how these play examples are quite short, but to the point, and it's nice to see quite a lot of them. I don't tend to read them out when we do Too Long Didn't Read Tabletop RPGs, mostly because I'm experienced enough to sort of like go, oh, I see how this works. But it's interesting with this one because I've not done anything as structured as this per se. Obviously, there's like I said before, we've played Good Society. Mars Colony was another one that did structures as well. This is good. You know, I probably should do Mars Colony at some point because it is a cracking game. It's a 2-player like political sci-fi drama, which is like it's like West Wing, sorry, but on Mars. Okay, create a word. Certain action cards are labelled create a word, and they instruct the player to just do that. They replace build a word portion with a special phase, construct the word from scratch. Follow steps below to construct your new word, or for more advanced play, use the word building in Dialect chapter for greater freedom in language construction. For your first game, we recommend using the simplified rules in this chapter. I'm very happy for using simplified rules. All good. There are many ways to tinker with words. You decide how these original words came to be. They may stem from an outside community, a mix of languages in cultural contact, or perhaps they are borrowing within a mysterious origin. These new words can add depth and dimension to the language you create. Yes. So step 1, pick a root. Pick one of the options below to form a root of your new word. They are arranged in groups from simple to more complex. Focus on the sounds of the root itself and choose what makes you happy. Follow your taste and don't worry about which inventory it comes from yet. Okay, let's try. I'm gonna pick Allah from Basic because I feel like I can already see some of these are much. Look at those. Look at that balanced one. Ooh, Allah. We'll go for Allah. Oh, fantastic! There's a pronunciation guide. Ah! So I'm very excited. I never see a pronunciation guide in anything. This is really cool. Ah. Pash. Then that first one there is Pash. Sure. Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Oh. Anyway, step 2, choose an affix. Choose one of the affix below to attach to a root to form the full word. Pick an affix from the same inventory as your root. These affix are grouped together according to whether they join with the roots that begin or end a consonant or vowel. Okay, so I had a vowel added to the vowel initial final. Oh, I see. Okay. So Allaha. We'll go for Allaha. Allaha. Yeah. I like that. I would have these printed out as like have them as sheets on the table as well, like player references. I'm very excited. And we've got some example words as well. Very cool. The roots and affixes in the session are all examples of outcomes from the method provided in Dave Peterson's word building in Dialect. I keep saying world building. Word building in Dialect. There you'll have a much higher degree of control over what you create. An abbreviated pronunciation guide as a guide is provided on the previous page. Oh, it's just, for a full one. Oh, it's an emotional roller coaster. For a full one, see pages 115. Well, I know we're almost finished with the main rules. I'm going to look at that later, though. I'm so excited. When I am playing for, I use the meridians of longitude and the parallels of latitude for a sign and a drag of the Atlantic Ocean for Wales. I scratch my head with the lightning and purr myself to sleep with the thunder. Mark Twain. Are dying languages worth saving? Whoa, look at that image. It's so cracking. Again, I'd have that on a postcard. Or have that as like a little A4 poster that you put somewhere. Yeah, this is a book. If you are somebody who's really into your linguistics, or if you are someone who does languages, or knows someone that does languages, languistics, languages are the same thing. I'd highly recommend getting them this RPG. I'm excited. I don't even say words good. Ages of Dialect. Here we go. So ages frame the story of the isolation. Each age captures an important window in the time of the community. From age to age, the isolation will change, and you'll see that reflected in your language during play. Dialect has three ages, followed by a short epilogue called the Legacy. An age is finished after each player has taken a turn. To start a new age, follow these steps. Transition to the next age. Each age brings with it a significant motion for the isolation's story. Whilst moving from one age to the next, you will read a short passage to frame how the story of isolation has progressed during this transition. Evolve an aspect. Every time an isolation moves to a new age, part of it will change in response to the transition. As a consequence, we will change one of the aspects. By evolving it in the same way, our building blocks for language will shift with time. Discard a card. Now, each player may discard a card from their hand and draw a new one for the age they are entering. This is in addition to the card drawn at the end of the player's turn. Okay. Right, so part 1, the age transition. So when the age is over, meaning each player has taken a turn, it will mark the end of a new chapter within the isolationist story. To move to the new age, we follow the steps below. Read the transition prompt for the upcoming age. These prompts will provide a framework for the transition, reminding us of how the story of the isolation should change when entering the new age. The 3 prompts are entering age 2, entering age 3, and entering legacy. So age 2 is an event to foreshadow the end of the isolation. It finds its way into all conversation and is impossible to ignore. Age 3 is what has foreshadowed has come to pass. The end of the isolation is near and there is no escaping it. And then we have the last moments or the aftermath. And then we address the prompt through one of the backstory pathways. Each backdrop comes with 2 pathways to answer each age transition prompts. When entering age 2, pick one of the pathways to follow. When entering a new age, including age 2, read the passage from your pathway underneath the transition prompt you just read. Transitions between ages mark the passage of time. It could be weeks, months, or years. After reading the passage in the pathway, flesh out details and the specific meaning to your isolation together. Make sure you address if specific people or groups are referenced, who they are, how much time has passed during the transition, and does the community react? If the transition in your pathway ends with a question, you should discuss it, but you don't have to resolve it completely. Let this be a seed for your fiction you develop in the upcoming age. Each pathway provides a different take on a language loss for that particular isolation. If you already played through both pathways for backdrop, you can make your own pathways by communally answering the transition prompts when entering an age. And then we've got an example. We won't need to look at that. I can't. Well, maybe we do. 100%. So let's see. Throughout the remainder of Age 1, players continue to develop the fiction of the Dust Bale. It's now to move on to the next age. So to recap what's happened so far, it looks like the movement is to cast away all traces of our communities back at home, or them, is really gathering steam with a group of Martian hardliners. And you read us the transition prompts for entering Age 2. It says, an event to foreshadow the end of the isolation. It finds its way into all conversations as is impossible to ignore. So there's 2 pathways. So, and then discuss it. We find something buried in the red sands far away from the outpost. It's from Earth, but it clearly wasn't meant for us. An advanced supply drop. It can only mean one thing. A second force is on its way. As we look through the supply crate, tensions mount. What do we find and why are we so afraid? I like starting on that one. So yeah, so it'll be the same sort of thing. And then you discuss how we came around it. Okay, great. Sounds good. All right. Second thing we do is evolve an aspect. Each age transition brings about change in the isolation. This change will transform an aspect in the community. For any transition except when entering the legacy, complete the following steps before moving on to the first turn of the next age. So we need to choose an aspect to evolve, decide on a replacement for the aspect, move the other aspects into the upcoming age, and then each player may discard a card and we withdraw from the languages deck for an upcoming age. Okay, so the aspect must be within the current age. Discuss how the age transition has brought about the change in this aspect. Write on a new index card and place it in the ring of the upcoming age. This is the new aspect and should be directly related to the aspect it is replacing, but closer to the center of the tableau. This is illustrated on the next page. Yes, we've seen this earlier. Move the other aspects into the upcoming age. All the aspects in the current age, except for the one that's just evolved, will remain part of the community, so move them into the ring for the upcoming age. Leave the language items where they are. Oh, okay. Notes on evolving aspects. So you can evolve aspects in many ways. The isolation may choose to adapt in the face of adversity and let the world change them, or they may double down in the face of doubt, entrenching them in their beliefs. When evolving an aspect, you are changing a part of the isolation in response to the world around it. See the community changes and how it affects the language you make. From this point on, the replaced aspect is no longer available to build language from, since it is left in a previous age. However, words that were defined early should still be used in conversation. Their use, as always, may organically shift as the community does. Each game comes with one core conceit. The isolation will end. Have your characters fight, but remember that their fate is sealed. Hope that they will win, even when you know they won't. And then we go for a play example. So there you go. Here's the example they've got here. Which was the one they're upgrading? Oh, I see. Yeah, sorry. So these are other aspects. They've been moved forward, but the items are still left there. And here, we are running from the past, and that's been evolved to we are fighting the past. Ooh, like that. And finally, we've got the legacy. So at the end of Age 3, deal out one legacy card to each player. After completing the transition into the legacy, read the next step in the pathway chosen. End the game by having each player do the following. Give a narrated epilogue based on one of the legacy card's prompts. Take a moment to wrap up your character's story and reflect on the legacy of the isolation. Players may go in any order. So rather than leaving the story of the isolation frozen, the legacy provides a moment to reflect on the world as the isolation leaves it. The legacy is your time to define the place of the isolation in history and to wrap up the stories of the individuals in it along with their language. Describe what is happening during the legacy, rather than having a conversation. It may be immediately after the last conversation in Age 3, from generations in the future, a flashback, or anything in between. These narrations do not need to be in chronological order. So, here we go as in the legacy prompts. So we've got, choose one option for your final narrated legacy. It may be about your character or the isolation as a whole. End your story. So we've got the three prompts are, how would you be remembered? Out of the ash, seedling sprouts, cast out again and again. Nice. And then we have a play example as well. The end. Hooray! So ends the story of the isolation. Take a few moments to reflect on the experience and talk openly about the game and the story you've told together. Consider discussing how you're feeling. Did anything unexpected happen? Which part of language are you going to stick with you? And how will you remember the story? You are the sole speakers of the dialect now. Wow, and so you got a little bit of debriefing there as well. Excellent, really cool. And the flow of play. So here's the easy, perfect, an easy reference sheet. I will say, I appreciate it's being in red and obviously standing out more. I wouldn't print it out in red. I hope there's like a black and white version of it as well. So, here's the overview we've got. Is it all on one page? No, of course it's not. It's on 2 pages. But first of all, we create those isolation. by picking a backdrop, a playset. We've got the create the aspects. We create 3 of those by answering 2 of those generation things and then picking a free one. Answer the community questions that come with the backdrop and name what the isolation is called. Then we'll take our 3 archetype cards from each player and then pick one of those to be our character and give them an introduction. That's our character creation done. Then we've got the turn structure about how we do a turn, which is like we play a card from the hand, which makes a connection to one of the aspects, and together we'll build a word using the prompt from the card, from the make a connection card, and then we're going to have a short scene which involves players around the table with their characters, like hopefully using or maybe avoiding using that language per se, and that anyone can edit it. And then once you've ended your turn, that person will draw a card for the next age, unless you're in age 3. At any time, they may discard a card to introduce a variant. That is an optional rule, though. And then we've got our ages. And so when we transition from one age to another, there's a transition prompt, and you've got to read the next step of whatever pathway you've taken in your playset, in your backdrop. Then after you've done that, you evolve one of the aspects in the current age, and then the other ones do. And then optionally, you can optionally you can discard a card and draw a card, but you can stop it when you're using the legacy, and then you do the legacy and narrate an epilogue. And that is it. That is the whole game. Really cool, actually. I really enjoy that. I'll quickly look at the backdrops quickly. And this is an example of a play. So like I said at the beginning of the stream, so you have 4 core ones that were created, and then there's lots of contributed ones from those writers that got part of the like stretch goals in the Kickstarter. In the language there is life, in the language there is death. So we've got the 4 examples they've got. Excuse me. We've got the story of the first Martian outpost, so that's what the play examples have been all about. After communications with Earth have been cut off, they fight to survive the planet. A group has barricaded themselves against the world they can no longer take part in. The year is 1982, and in their solitude, they will create a new utopian home. Sing the Earth Electric, left behind for one final mission before humanity abandoned Earth. A misfit crew of machines pursue their ultimate duty. Oh my god, it's Wally. It's Wally after all this. And then finally we've got Thieves' Cant. Scoundrels and thieves must develop a new way to communicate each other in public without betraying their real intentions. Oh, that's very cool. I'd love to try that. I think those final 2 ones, they sound the most interesting to me. I'd love to try them. Let's have a look at that one. Let's look at the Earth Sings Electric one. So each of these core ones, they're 2 pages long, which is good. Sing the Earth Electric. Harumph. If I were to abandon a planet, which I would never do, by the way, I'd at least want to hear from it once in a while. Maybe send a message or 2. Or flowers. Gosh, it's been forever since I've seen one of those. No use kidding myself, though. We haven't detected a shred of organic life on Earth for at least 100 years. The humans left, but they needed something done in their wake. They repurposed a crew of autovacs, robo-harvesters, really anything that could fit an AI module and lend a silicon limb. A scarcely compatible band of machines manufactured from all corners of the Earth, of the world, and brought together to accomplish this one task. At any rate, this ball of dirt is now ours, and without the humans, we've had more time to interface with one another. The experience has been, let's say, illuminating. So, aspect generation questions. So, job: what task did the human program us to accomplish on Earth without them? A long shadow. In what way have we started showing shades of humanity? And the 3 aspects. So that's those aspect ones. Community questions, which would go around the team. What does Earth look like now? How did it become uninhabitable? How many of us are there? Where are we geographically located? What are some of the routines we must do together on a regular basis? If a unit malfunctions, what happens? Which units always seem to be working the hardest? And we've got some examples of names. Excellent. Oh my god. Higgins. Great name. Okay, so the age transition. So once we go from age 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. So choose a pathway, black column left or red column right. And then choose the same pathway as you progress. So Entering Age 2, an event to foreshadow the end of the isolation. It finds its way into all conversations and is impossible to ignore. So on the black column we have a new arrival. We found it stranded and alone in a crater. Must have fallen from the sky. It's not organic, but it doesn't look man-made either. We've only managed to crudely interface, but it sounds like they have strong intentions for Earth. Why are they a fundamental risk to our mission? Or, the refueling shipments from humans haven't come in years. Energy supplies are running low. Without another shipment, our days are numbered. This must be what it means to worry. How does the different units respond to this odd feeling? Oh, 100% that red column I'd go for. I think that left column is interesting, but I think there's something sad about a story like you running out of supplies and it's just that's it. No, there's no savior, there's no nothing. Whereas I think New Arrival could easily be something, I don't know, evil or bad or something. Whereas I don't know, some sort of hopelessness with the red column. So I think I would pick that one, or I'd vote for that one myself. Then Age 3 is what has foreshadowed has come to pass. The end of isolation is near. There is no escaping it. So more of them. They fell from the sky one by one before they outnumbered us. Interfacing is still clunky, but it is unquestionable at this point. Our missions are fundamentally incompatible, and now they're making it impossible for us to satisfy our programming. What drastic action must we undertake? Oh, it's a bit like those, what Doctor Who episode is it? It's the one with it's the Power of 3, where it has those little boxes that everyone picks up, and it turns out that they're like poison for humans. They're like little ant poisons, pellets. And then the red column says, critical energy critical mode has been engaged for everyone whose programming allows it. Some units are on the brink of shutting down. Hope, however irrational, still burns for some. What did they do to keep that flame alight? And then the legacy, entering the legacy. Our program mission is now obsolete. Do we fight on without end, or do our routines for self-preservation take over? Some consider the unthinkable. Do we join them and abandon our defining task? Can we? Any unit that has an option has entered hibernation stasis. One day, maybe humanity will come back and retrieve our memory chips. Whatever happens, we had this time, and it was ours. Oh, 100% I want to play through that red pathway. That sounds really cool and really interesting. And that's it. So it's just 2 pages, so you don't even need that much from these playsets if you're certainly going to create your own. That's really cool. And then you've got the Thief Kank one, which we won't look into there. And I think... image. Gorgeous. Oh, lovely 2-page spread. And then there's some contributed ones as well. Let's have a see what we've got. So we've got Sanctuary Island by Meg A. Baker. The Zatane Dachar? I want to see what's... The Bidden Children. What did Jay Lee put in? Because their stuff's always good. Unseen and discarded, these children must move in the sprawling, hidden spaces of the city. They may have a moment to dream in the cracks and shadows. Oh, that feels very Little Nightmares, doesn't it? I was listening to the music for that recently. It was really good. George, punished for no crime, this Dalit community in rural India is imprisoned in their own home. They must relish small victories and moments of happiness in order to survive in the face of cruel oppression. Beyond the Village by Alex Roberts. This band of queer artists, labourers and hustlers make their home in former parking garages of an urban hellscape that stretches forever. They must nurture and care for one another whilst fighting back against those who would prey on them. Very cool. I can see one called Toy Box Tales. As the years go on, the playtime grows shorter. What has become of the toys that when the child they love so dearly grows up? Oh, it's a Toy Story one. Very cool. Oh, that one would be quite fun to do as well. There you go. And there's just 2 pages as well. And that's kind of it. Let's have a look through. I know we've got some... Oh, there we go. We've got... So this is that word building and dialect one, which I won't read through. I think that would be a good one to read in your own time. That's quite... I love that they've got an essay about that. That makes sense for this particular game. Look at that. They've got like a phonemic inventory. Oh, very cool. Yeah, if I was going to run this game, I would... A pronunciation guide. If I'm going to run this game, I definitely would read through the whole book then. Just to be that really good guide on this front. Creating a world that sustains its language. Good. Greet people in their language. Oh. Learn to pronounce names. I mean, I struggle with that at the best of times. Oh, it's got some tips for doing that as well. So, open your voice recorder app and say your friend's name as best you can. Make it obvious you're recording it and will help you notice pronunciation difference later. Look to your friend for correction. Put the phone near them and ask them to repeat. Ask them to repeat it slowly. Play back the recording. This shows them what you've captured. Trying to say their name correctly and look to your friend for correction. Notice how their lips move. Ask them to correct you in future if you don't get it right. Later on your own, listen and practice. Oh, amazing. One thing I would recommend, that's really cool. I really appreciate that, and I definitely will be doing that in the future for sure. I think one thing I'd say is that if you're in a Zoom room, I always ask, if possible, if people could put the pronunciations or either in the chat or you add it to their Zoom name, just so I can read it through. Again, it's effort on their part for sure, but I'd rather ask about it, and then rather get it wrong, because I got it wrong so many times. Reconnect with your home language. This is great. What a great book. All right, I'm going to whiz through the next couple of little bits because I just want to see if there's anything else we should look at. Appendices. Here we go. So we've got some adorning your play space. Let's have a quick look at this. Adorning your play space is an optional ritual by which you separate out the ages of dialect with string or other material. If using string, it can be beaded to help maximize the shape or tape down. Each ring should be large enough to accommodate an index card. Make space. Make the space your own. Oh, nice. Interesting. I like that. Look at those little beads that you've got down, making it bigger. That'll be really cool. Again, it's very much like those artifact RPGs, or you have that play space as well, making an impact on the environment. That's very cool. Safety mechanics, it's good to have it. I think I would say I would have it at the top. I appreciate it is in the appendix and they want to get to the language first. I think if it's only going to be it's a page long, put that at the front so you don't miss it. And writing your own backdrop, so advice on how to do that, which is brilliant. I love games that are instantly do you want to hack the system? Let's do it. Some stuff about character depth. Again, we won't go into it too much. A glossary of terms. Amazing. Gratitude. Oh, wow, this is a gratitude. Oh, that's lovely. It's the acknowledgement page. Oh, amazing. And it's all very individualized as well. That's very cool. Oh, wow. Crypto linguists. Amazing. These must be all the people from the Kickstarter, huh? Nice work. Glossio poets. Oh. Keepers of the vernacular. What great names. Oh my gosh, the tiny writing there. I love the illustrations they've got in the sort of pencil and pen illustrations. That writing is tiny. A language for a world. And here we've got here are the cards you can print out at the end. So what kind of architects? I'm going to switch it around. Let's see. So we've got, these are the kind of archetypes that you can be. So a scrounger, a zealot, a healer, a protector, an artist, a mediator, an oracle, a leader. Those are the voices. They're called voices, these archetypes. We've got explorer, ruler, jester, celebrity, innocent, sage, and magician. Ooh, there we go. And then it moves on to the age stuff. So in total you have 1, 2, 3, what you have 11 rolls? No, don't be an idiot, Fiona. You got 8 and then you got 7, so it's 15 rolls. Minor panic there, I was like, could not math. And then we've got our age cards, so the age 1 cards there. So we've got stuff like prompts like, connections like greeting, bad omen, happiness, friend, wonderful, in term of endearing, a unit of time, a filler word. Look at the colour on these cards, it's beautiful. We've got worry, special occasion, future, expletive, money. Oh, it'd be fun to come up with swear words. Technology, the past, honorific. And then we've got work, resource, good luck, create a word, death, and sadness. Then we've got age 2, so faction, discovery, vice, title of command, environmental feature, new ritual, what lies outside, traitor. Are you a traitor? Narrowing, subrequite, Oh, what is that word? I mean, Mo's going to tell us a nickname for that. All that replaces someone else's name. Sub-refect. Possibly. Eponym. Change in register. Widening. Portmanteau. Sound change. Proverb. So those are the action cards. I see. Evolve. Pronoun. Hypervol. Euphemism. Create a word. Again. Evolve. Antonym. Subgroup. Synonym. Then create a word again. And then H3, you've got label, decree, unity, saying, promise, survival, taboo, disuse, symbol of hope. Fracture, what we bring in, what we pass on, a new source, misunderstanding, perception. Oh. And then we've got the epilogue cards here as well, which I'm not going to read out. We've got 6 of those. Nice, and that's it. Brilliant. All right, let me turn it all back around. So that was Dialect. What do we think? It speaks to me in the sense of like building stuff. It makes me think of Ben Robbins's world building ones, which names Kingdom was the one I'm thinking of just now. But he's got lots of like ways to make time. So instantly, I understand why you would use this to build a world for your players to be a part of, or something in the past, so parts of history. I love the idea of creating new words and getting people comfortable with making up words. I feel like this is something in improv. When you give someone like a genre like sci-fi, the one thing they always say about like if you're struggling with like embracing the concept, come up with words you think would work well in the sci-fi. So be like, I see you've got the bar. This is where I can't think of any words. The Barzorts 2.5 working. Yes, the Barzorts 2.5. It's been on the blink for a while, but we managed to get the parts in. Just a bit of wiring. Brilliant, and just naming things like that. Always add numbers to things in sci-fi, I find as well. But coming up with like planet names. So like we looked at Orbital Blues yesterday, or 2 days ago, and that had some really good like names for planets and names for places, like generators. And I feel here you can really get into deep and creating your own words and stuff, which will then stay with you. Like I talked before about like doing a Fiona, doing a Hamilton stuff. I actually remember when we did our D&D game, the one that lasted 5 years and we went up to level 20, we became doing an Aubrey, because my character was called Aubrey, was like just doing something incredibly rash, incredibly like typical of an Aubrey. That's something that Aubrey would do. And I remember the one that they came up with as a phrase was like a plummeting Aubrey. It was because my cloak of flying stopped working whilst we were at a great height, and I fell, and my character fell and gained velocity quite quickly, max velocity quite quickly. I almost died, and it was very terrifying, but it was really funny because of course it was going to happen from what we did. But like a plummeting Aubrey became like a phrase for came like a phrase for like something rash that immediately goes wrong, which I quite enjoyed. We always make a joke of it, but that's the sort of language that it talks about an experience you had, and it becomes like a phrase you use. I think that's my thing here, is that I wouldn't limit it to just words. I'd make it a phrase as well. So like he talked about, some of the players' examples had it here, like, they see us and seeing them as a phrase rather than just one word. Because if you're struggling to capture something in one word, make it a phrase instead. But I really like this. I think I'm going to have to play it in some point. It maybe needs to be a stream, see the visual of it. And one thing I'd say as well, it's incredibly easy to play this game online. It does have its own unique card system. That's a bit of an issue, unless it's got it on a tabletop version. Like, it makes sense that it wants you to be in person to do this, because then you feel more connected. But if you're going to do this online, like, easily I can say you making like the Miro board or the Google Sheets or whatever, the Google Slides. Sorry, no, the Google Whiteboard. What am I doing? I'm naming too many products. But you need to show what the cards mean. So I think I would have to then. I don't know if there's no digital version of these cards that you can buy. That's a downside, I would say. But maybe then I would... It's a lot of work for me as a facilitator to cut these up and put them into piles on, like, say, a VTT or something. I think I would have them to one side, perhaps. I don't know. That's the sticking point, because these are so important, these cards, to have in the game. That's a That's a bugger. That I wish there was a way that. Because what they do with the Quiet Year is that it rolls on a table, or uses suits of a carving, and you can roll on a table and all that sort of thing. So tricky. I really like this game. I did not know what to expect, and I think I love it. I really want to try it out. I really want to see where we go to it, and I love the fact it's not necessarily a community from civilizations past, and we never talk about them anymore. It's not set in like the prehistoric past, which is what I assumed it would be. It's the fact it's creating language from any community, whether it's like in the past, current, like, you know, at school, or into the future of that cyberpunk, or the dystopian future stuff. So that's really cool. Yeah, really enjoyed it. So if you want to check that out, it is Dialect by Thorny Games. I'll put a link to it in the chat. They've got obviously a physical version, which is a bugger to get. It's all out. That's the problem. It's out of stock in the UK, unfortunately. Because I was hoping to get like an actual copy of it, but you can get the PDF from their website. Yeah, it's not on Drive-Thru RPG. I saw. Maybe there's an itch I missed, but I would recommend. So, boo, out of stock. Yeah, out of stock. Unfortunately, it's a shame. It's again, I think it's had a very limited print run, and now you can still get it, but they are based in LA, so you can imagine the shipping prices are going to be extraordinarily expensive. So, I don't know. We'll see. But if I go to the big screen with Big Fiona Cam. Hello. Thank you so much for joining me on this Friday afternoon of Dialect, the Too Long Didn't Read Tabletop RPG. We have one more planned for this week, which I believe is Agon. The Fred Hick, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm going to probably get it wrong now. Or Agon, I think that's probably what it'd be. The sort of Grecian myth RPG that was created by Fred Hicks and Evil Hat Games, which I've not played. I vaguely remember watching a playthrough of it, and I seem to remember with that game it's all about your title of your name. It's weird, we've gone from languages to names. It's all about wordplay now, but like you'd be like, I don't know, Hercules, son of Zeus, the beater of Titans, that sort of thing. So you have all your deeds, and then what you roll, I believe it's the case, I'll find out on Sunday when I've got it completely wrong. If you'd be like, oh well, I have beater of Titans, can I roll an extra die because I'm using that honorific, etc., which I think is quite fun. So that's what we're going to do on Sunday, or Sunday evening, and then I'm going to look, because I've got some time, a little bit of time this week. I want to try and do a few more sort of RPG, Too Long Didn't Read RPGs, probably after work. My schedule moves around a little bit, because I like to do it like straight after work, working from home where possible, but then I'm one of those people that gets busy in the evenings because I'm an idiot. So we'll have a look. We'll see what we've got, because we've done a couple, but I'll tell you what else we've got coming up in Sundays, because Sundays are the ones I've always sort of plan a little bit ahead. So this Sunday is Agon. I think I'll have to double check. I think next Sunday might be My Little Pony. I'll double check that, because it's, you know what, I've read it before. It looks pretty good. Where is it? Oh, doorbell. Oh, somebody's joined. Actually, Agon. Yes, My Little Pony is the 28th. Tales of Equestria, which I'm very looking forward to. And then the Sunday after that will be Pendragon. All good fun as well. So that's that. Oh gosh, now I've opened everything. It's like, Fiona, pay attention to me. I'll end the stream very quickly. If you're interested in listening to the podcast, what am I rolling? I'm not scared. Oh, sorry, Nightbot. No, sorry, not Nightbot. Sorry, Amster. I get you. I know. I see you, My Little Pony. Yeah, I've read it through before a long time ago, and it's nice and fucking wholesome, so to speak. You got too excited. I know. Do not worry. But if you want to check out the podcast, What Am I Rolling? It's on wherever you listen to podcasts. We do lots of different RPG systems. We've got an episode releasing on Sunday, which is going to be about my interview with Daniel Han, the tabletop, the RPG therapist. And we've got two coming up. We've got the RPG therapist, Daniel Han, and then the one after that we will have Game Therapy UK, and basically both these individuals, these or the charity Game Therapy UK, it's about using RPGs in ways to help people beyond the table. So Daniel uses it in his client sessions when he's going through when they're going through therapy, which was really interesting, and he has a book which I'll recommend. Game Therapy UK uses RPGs with groups of people such as the unhoused or war veterans, etc., as a socialization and keep connected to each other, which is brilliant, and it's something that I really value. That's one of my high values, is that these sort of games bring people together. So those will be the next 2 episodes coming out as well. Finally, also, if you've stumbled onto the stream, you've come to the end and you've gone, oh, Fiona, we're going to talk to you in person. And I was like, oh, don't talk to me in person. But I've got a Discord for both podcasts, What Am I Rolling, and the DN's Book Club. I'll say, as a sneaky peek into DN's Book Club stuff, we're going back on our travel book club. We did the Outer Planes as part of our looking forward to Planescape, and now why go outer when we can go to the inner planes? So we're currently recording a bunch of stuff for that, which will be out hopefully in the next couple of months. It might be video. Depends if I get my act together and if Paul Hamilton gets his act together as well. That's it. That's all I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday evening if you're watching live. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, or just have a wonderful rest of your day. Very much appreciate it. I'm going to go here. I'm going to find out why people keep ringing me during the streams and messaging me. I'm going to find out at the end of the stream. I'm going to wave. Say goodbye. Bye.